So now you're on camera here, Nelson,
Yeah.
in your lovely home, here in the kitchen, and so tell me about this book that you're writing.
Well, I'm writing a book to make sure that it goes down in history that when we formed NSA originally, it was the plan was to have CIA, which had already been formed, to become the sabotage organization clandestinely, and to tell the world that they were our intelligence agency, and that the NSA, which is being newly formed, would be actually be our intelligence agency. And it turned out that the NSA was formed under President Truman, but when Eisenhower became president, immediately after that, he and his group really had a lot of savvy and learned from the mistakes in the Korean War that we needed a civilian, full-time intelligence agency that was not answerable to anyone. At that time, it was necessary to not be able to answer to anyone, Congress or anyone else. And that's the first time in history, and it was because our communications intelligence and code breaking is just absolutely imperative that you don't even imply that some country's code's being broken, because they'll change it very easily. And then it's millions of dollars and millions of man hours to redo it. So it was built into the whole plan that NSA would be a intelligence agency not answerable to anyone except the president, not Congress, and that there would be a cover organization and a cutout organization that they would tell the world was our intelligence agency, which is CIA, and was natural. And also we needed a clandestine sabotage agency then, at least they felt they did, and that's what CIA really was. So CIA had two functions. One is to be our sabotage agency, and to be a front for our intelligence agency. And we planned that at Arlington Hall in the spring of 1953, and it's been working ever since. Because from 1953 to this day, I haven't heard anyone say that NSA is our intelligence agency and the CIA is our provocateur organization.
And how did you were at the meeting where these foundations were laid, where the structure and purpose and this organization for the NSA were determined.
Right.
And how did you come to be at that meeting?
Because when I went into the Army, I was a step and fetch it for one of the civilians at the head of the Army Security Agency. The Army Security Agency was at Arlington Hall Station, and that was the center for all of the communications intelligence of the United States at the time. And they would just take me along as to the meetings of the general staff sometimes. The general head of the Army Security Agency was General Harry Reichelderfer. And so that was the place that they had to divvy up the work and make the plan for what this new agency, National Security Agency, what they would do, and their whole modus operandi, and how they would divvy up the work between them and CIA. It had to be done pretty soon after because when the Korean War was over, which they were in the peace negotiations at the time, in the spring of 1953, and that was the time that they had to make this plan. So I happened to be there as a lowly NCO, but I was taken along to these meetings where all of this was worked out at Arlington Hall Station in '53.
And then after that, you actually worked for the NSA.
After that, I went back and got a master's degree in physics, and while I was there doing a master's degree in physics, I also worked part-time for NSA, commuting from West Virginia University down to, at that time, moved to Fort Meade. We were moving to Fort Meade, and then I worked from then until about 1960 for, that would have been about 6 years. I worked for NSA. And then after I left NSA, I, from time to time, consulted for them.
So where was it that you went to school to get your physics degree?
I went to West Virginia University, and then while I was there, I worked part-time for NSA, one day a week or so. And then when I went to NSA full-time, after I left NSA, I also would work for them part-time, even though I was also in the government. I was at NASA, Goddard Space Flight Center, which is right down the road from Fort Meade, in Greenbelt, Maryland.
And there you were in charge of the program for space-based laser communications?
Yes, I had invented the forerunner for lasers, which were used at the time for microwave amplifiers called masers. And then I had invented other laser devices, and originally got the idea of using lasers as sensitive in sensitive transmitter receivers. And so I was in charge of the NASA space-to-space communication system there.
And you spent some time at MIT.
Yes, I was at MIT where we invented the maser, but I was getting paid my salary from NSA, and I was really undercover NSA employee at MIT.
And as part of all of this, you've traveled all over the world.
Well, yeah, because we had to install listening devices and receivers at that time to intercept the signals of the USSR.
Yeah. And so you were actively involved in a lot of the code-breaking activities?
Not a lot, but everyone went through a general code-breaking course at Army Security Agency and NSA, and so I was just peripherally involved with that. Not really too peripherally, because they have a policy of need to know, and if you don't have any need to know, then you don't get to know.
Now, you've talked to me before about how things were structured at the NSA, how it was a great place to work. They had all of these clubs and things, and
right.
And you've said several times just what an amazing, fun place to work it was.
Right. NSA people, if you're going to break codes and do other intelligence